In this video, we're going to be looking at the shortest edge path node in geometry nodes and how you can use it to create a really simple but effective lightning field. Okay, so before we kick off with today's tutorial, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who watched the previous videos on the pumpkins. I think everyone's probably getting a bit sick and tired of the Halloween pumpkin now. Yes, there were 3 videos, but they had slightly different tips and tricks in them, and one of them was a little Halloween special that you could use on a projector. If you've not seen those videos, and there are things in there that you might find useful, like the mysterious appearing effect, then please do have a look in that video, and it's all chaptered, so you can jump straight to the bit which just details how that effect was achieved. So then, before we kick off on today's video, it's worth just mentioning very quickly that YouTube has a habit of de-resolutioning, if that's even a word, your videos. So when you play it back, it looks pretty grainy. So if you're struggling to follow what's on screen, try adjusting your resolution settings to as high as they can go. This should be coming out as 1080p resolution, so you should be able to see it, but for whatever reason on my phone anyway, remember my phone doesn't like me, I don't know, but it always seems to drop into a much lower resolution. I always seem to struggle watching tutorials, so have a look at that. If you're still struggling to follow what's going on, please do drop a comment below and let me know, and if there are any problems, and I'll talk you through any of the issues. So today we're on 3.3.1. You might need to have Blender 3.3 onwards because we're using a shortest path node. So if you haven't got 3.3, you may need to download it. So let's go straight into this. And what we're going to do first off is we get rid of our default cube, and we're going to replace it with an isosphere. Let's just zoom in on this. Now, when it comes to resolution, you want to crank this up for this effect. I find 5 worked quite nicely. If you've got a super powerful computer, feel free to go higher. If you've got not such a super powerful computer, then 4 should be alright. In fact, take the opportunity, have a play around with the resolution settings and just see what works best. So we have our isosphere, and we're going to go straight into geometry nodes, and we're going to add a new setup here. So let's move things around a little bit so you can actually see what's going on. So first off, we've got this group input, group output. What we want to do is we're going to use a shortest edge path. Let's just put this down here out of the way. Now, to make this work, we're going to use another node called edge paths to curves. There you go. We'll just plug that in there, and straight away this has disappeared, which, don't worry about it, it will come back. We will do stuff with it. And then on top of that, we want to do a curve to mesh. Here we go. And then finally, we're going to do a curve circle. There we go. So I plant this in here. Now you may recognize this from other tutorials where you go through this, and what it does is it creates a kind of a structure around it. It looks like a wireframe around it. But what we're going to do today is we're telling it where, which route you want to take. So we've got this edge paths to curves. Now, to make this work, we need a start point and an end point. So we're going to start with our start point. In fact, we need to bring back, let's put this in here for now, and then we go to edit mode. Okay, and we'll come out of this. Let's just click down here. I want to look down on the structure. Now, this is a neat little trick, and you need to turn it on if you haven't. If you go to interface, turn your developer extras on. And the reason for that is we want to see which vertices, which node we're aiming at. So if we zoom right in here, and then I click this button up here, viewport overlays, and go down to developer indices, turn that on, and now I select this node here. It is there, I just can't see it. There we go, it's number 11. So now we've got a starting point. So now we need an index node, which I'm going to crank over here, and we want a equal. Just type equal into here. So how I'm doing that, I'm just grabbing here, dragging it across, let go of your mouse button, and then I type equal. So we want to compare equal, and I'm going to put that into the result. Now we know our number is 11. That's our starting point. It's as simple as that. Then what we're going to do is tell it where to go. So we go to our next index there, and it's probably best just to copy this. So Shift D, drag it down to here, and pump that into there. Now obviously you can't have a start and an end point at the same point. So let's have a look underneath. The way to do it is to just look under there, and same again. Click that button, back out, and that is 0. That's helpful, isn't it? 0. Now you won't see anything happen yet because these aren't joined up. So let's just do that. Join geometry, and let's just plan that in there. And there you go. You've got an absolutely massive curve going on. So obviously you don't want it that big. So let's just crank this down. Let's see. Zoom that in. Let's make that a little bit bigger, shall we? Not too 5. Yeah, you can see that now. Let's have a look. Not too 5. We may want to adjust that when we add some texture to this. Okay, let's do that now. So we want to set material, crank it into there, go to your materials tab, add new. We'll add new eventually. Emission. Turn that to a nice emission. Pump that up to, let's say, there. And a nice big number. And then put that into there. Now when we come out of object mode and into something like that, of course it is, it's always going to add it to all of it. We need to add another set material. Set, it's there, material, and there we go. This, in fact, let's give it a new material. Let's plant it there. That's interesting. There you go. Dial that down. Let's make it nice and like that. And then we want a shade smooth, don't we? Set shade smooth. Like that. That's looking pretty good so far. Okay, so let's turn our bloom on. So that's yeah, that's looking pretty good. Let's dial to. Well, let's go back to where we started, 0.01, and actually that doesn't look too bad at all, does it? Now then, this looks a bit angular at the moment. So let's just zoom in on what we've got. It's very angular. You can do stuff to that. So where it says here. So that's what we want to do is resample that curve, plug it into there, and you can crank that up a little bit. Let's make it 20. Okay, so there you go. That is straight off. That is your first kind of electric beam. And so what we want to do now is we want to. Yeah, it's all very well and good starting there. But what we want to do is we want to vary in accordance with our effect. We want to vary that. Now I find that a nice noise texture works quite nicely here. And we want to plug the factor into your edge cost. Now if I turn that to 4D, let's turn this into a timeline editor. And let's make that insert keyframe there. Go to our last one and we want to make that 10. Let's make it 10. You can vary this as much as you like. And then let's hit the go button. You get this kind of bouncy effect. This looks pretty awesome so far. The one thing you'll notice straight away is when it starts, in fact looking down it might be a bit more obvious, when it starts the right way, it takes a little bit of time to wind up, and that's because I haven't changed my defaults. what we need to do is go into Graph Editor. You can see there it's got this nice steady ramp up, and then it'll steadily drop off as it gets to the end. So we don't really want that. What we want is to change that to a linear. Now, if we hit the Go button again, this should all look a bit more like that. So that on the off is a very straightforward electricity ball effect. Now, obviously, you might want a few more, so let's move these over here. So this top line is your sphere, and these are your electricity. So what to do is we're going to copy all them, Shift D, move them all down a little bit, and then join that up to your join geometry. So grab that one and go down to here. There you go. Plug it into the mesh, and obviously it hasn't copied that effect there. So let us make that 0. Insert keyframe, and then make that one again 10, and insert keyframe. Now that all that's going to do is copy, so you can adjust that scale a little bit, and then hit the Go button again. And of course, again, we've done the same thing again. We need to go into our Graph Editor. I could just change these in the defaults, but what would be the fun in that? And then back to here, timeline, and off you go. So let's add a few more of these and see where we end up. So I think that looks pretty cool, actually. Quite like the flickering effect. So let's just add a couple of more tricks to this. And yep, what we've got here is just a different background going on. We've got a plane with a texture on it, a very simple one. We've also got a little light underneath it, and as you can see, this is looping quite nicely now. I think this is only 10 seconds worth of run. In fact, I think it probably took about 10 seconds to actually render the whole thing, because it's an Eevee. Now this looks pretty cool as is, but let's say we want to make it a little bit more interesting. Now what we can do is we can vary where this endpoint is. So if we go to our complex sphere here, and let's have a look. Now what we want to do is we want to have our kind of end node somewhere over here. So at the moment it's set to 0. So what we can do is we can go into this node here, and I want to insert a keyframe. Now I kind of want to need to know a node around here. So let's go to layout, go to edit mode, and you can see that I've already clicked one. Can do there. That's about right. 1130. So I want to type into here. So let's go to Graph Editor, and I want to make sure you click Object, node you're interested in, and then we add a modifier. Now you can use a few of these. I like Sign, it seems to work quite well. What we want to do is not just put it there, but we want to make it move around a little bit, just to give it a bit more detail. Make that a smaller number. You can see what it's done there. Oops, 5.1 works quite nicely. So what that's going to do now, you can see how it's moving that point around a little bit. Zoom in a bit. Dancing around just a little bit, and there's obviously more things you can do to this. You can have it work around a larger cluster of these, so it really moves around. Also, it's worth keeping in mind just how quickly these change. See there, so keep in mind about 24 is about 1 second, so that doesn't look too bad. Gives it a bit of life. Now at the moment it's kind of ending quite abruptly, so let's just add a little bit more detail to it. And what we want to do is, if I close that screen over there, let's say search, and we want, I don't want to do search, I want to add a isosphere. And let's put that down here. And now what we want is an instance on points. I'm going to plant that here. The first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab the group input, put it into points. I'm going to grab my isosphere. I'll put it into instance, and I want this down here, and I want to go into selection. So essentially I'm saying these points, I want this particular node, and I want to put this sphere on it. I'm going to make that sphere quite small as well. And then let's join that up to our instance there. Now that's gone a bit crazy straight away. Subdivision 0. Yeah, it kind of helps if you get it the right way around. The radius needs to be smaller. Let's see, is that too small? It's just about there. Let's make it 0.1. Oh, ooh, crikey, somewhere in between. Somewhere less than that. There you go. It doesn't need to have so many subdivisions. Remember, I think I mentioned it in a previous tutorial, the more subdivisions you have, the harder your computer's going to have to work. The more detail you got, but the harder it's going to be for the computer to do its job. If we drop that into there, and then let's just give this the same emission as that. Now, when I hit the go button, in fact, let's keep it zoomed in, you'll actually see it. There you go. It's jumping around that surface. So it's quite just a neat little trick, just to add a little bit more detail to it. In fact, yeah, let's go to 0.02. Okay, yep. So there you go. That's how you add this really simple detail. And yeah, let's just quickly animate that and see how that looks. So that's looking really very good. It's a little bit jerky. You know, you can spend a bit more time and effort on it, and it'll probably look much smoother. So yeah, that's the general basics. Now, if you're so well inclined, you can go absolutely crazy and start creating something a bit more complex like this. Now, this environment didn't take very long to put together, but to create the geometry nodes was a little bit of a headache using the process that we've gone through today. So actually, if we go in and just show you how it was done, we won't go into massive detail as to how to do it because we'd be here forever, but just at a glance, that is the geometry node engine behind that rather more complex sci-fi type environment. So it's essentially the same thing just over and over again, and we've got some external controls there. But there's nothing in there that I haven't gone through in the last few minutes. So it's basically just copy. We've got some slightly different emissions there, and that's what creates this kind of effect over here. Let's move this to one side, turn that on. You can see these are slightly smaller. You can see that they're all aiming towards the same node, so they all move together. They all have slightly different scales. That's what gives them their own kind of unique little pass through it. And yeah, so actually what you could do, if you're so well inclined, is you could have had these purple beams line up and meet with the blue beams. That probably would look quite awesome, but let's save that for another time. But that is essentially how to create this really cool electrical effect. So that pretty much concludes this tutorial, and really hope you all learned something and got something from this. And if you do use these tutorials, then please do drop a link below. I'd love to see what you've come up with. And that just leaves me to say thank you very much. And if you've enjoyed this, please do consider subscribing. I love seeing the likes come in. It's great if people are enjoying it. If there are any suggestions, then also please drop a comment below. Yeah, so thank you very much. And until next time, have a good one.